Welcome to Conversations in Between the Realms, a podcast where the mystical meets the everyday. Join Amanda Nova and Beth Renov each week as we dive into the profound journey of awakening, sharing our experiences, insights, and the lessons that guide us toward our divine purpose. Together, we awaken and guide our souls and others, exploring the magic of living in the 3D while staying connected to the higher realms, embracing the challenges, and celebrating the growth. You've been guided here for a reason. Trust in the journey and let the unfolding begin.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Conversations in Between the Realms. I'm Amanda Nova and I'm here as always with the lovely Beth Renov, and we are trekking along today. We are on a struggle bus that is shutting down, that is chugging along. So I don't know, I feel like that's the energy of what's going on right now, and we're gonna just dive right into it. So, Beth, how are you doing over there? You okay?
Yeah, I think my brain has shut down. So that's been interesting.
I think a lot of people are feeling it that way. We're about to go into the October full moon, and I think there's a lot of fatigue going on. I think a lot of people are feeling like they're exhausted. And I think just exhausted on life right now.
What? Yeah, you were asking before. Every single one of my clients is like, I feel like I have mono. But it's so funny because it actually came to me in one of my sessions, and I was like, there's an atmospheric pressure drop. And I don't know why that came to me, but I looked it up during the session, and they're like, yep, there's an atmospheric pressure drop. And what happens is I guess the blood doesn't it has to work harder or something to get to the brain. I don't know, but it causes fatigue, it causes migraines, it causes other weird physical symptoms. But every single person I've talked to this week as a client or a friend or a family is like, I feel like something physical is going on.
Yeah. And I mean, what's kind of coming through for me, while you're saying that, is sort of like a forced rest, and it sort of feels like everybody's being forced to kind of go into this cocoon and sort of forced into this period of integration, this period of turning inward. And I saw something this morning about October and about the last few months of the year being really big months in relation to people's businesses, in regards to activity, and not just activity in okay, it's holidays and it's all this stuff, but if you are somebody who has a business, if you are somebody who is trying to, let's say, manifest all these new things, this is really the time where everything's coming out. If you were calling things in the spring and you were planting your seeds in the spring, this is when everything is sprouting. So it's we are about to go into this period where everything is blooming, actually, right? So all this stuff is going to be going on. So it's kind of interesting to me that we would be resting, because I think we're all going to be really busy soon with some really, really big things. And I actually think it's going to be some really, really good stuff. I think that people are going to see some really good things happening. And, I had put this in my newsletter to my members. I think that the tides are turning a little bit. I actually feel like some good things are coming. And I think that the fatigue and the shittiness, the sluggishness, is actually forced rest to prepare for that.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's you need to be able to handle what's about to come in. And if you don't rest, you're gonna not be able to handle it, And I think you had talked about bodies not being able to take certain amounts of energy. And when your manifestations come in, it's a insane amount of energy coming in. It's new energy I can't even speak today. Energy. I'm just going to make up words and we're going to coin them. Energy.
Synergy.
intense energy. But it is intense energy, and that's why there's like such thing as an integration, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can't integrate if your body is like barely able to handle it, if it's not rested, if it's not preparing.
Yeah. And I think that that's also why we need to surrender a little bit more. Like that's been coming up with a lot of my clients, as well as like this idea of like, okay, so now we're feeling that, right? So like, okay, so there's an atmospheric drop. Okay, so do we fight against that and use more energy trying to fight that? And then there goes all of our energy. Or do we say, okay, maybe this is like time where we need to rest because all of these other things are coming in? And you know what I was kind of saying, like right before we hopped on, and we were talking a little bit about this yesterday, and this has sort of been like circulating in my mind, is like this idea of like where we are putting our energy, like this idea of like energetic spending, like where we spend our energy as if it's money, like, and where we're talking about money, but like where we spend our energy, I think that that is what is going to be where a lot of people are going to be focusing. Like, and I think like today is Yom Kippur. Isn't that about like looking at where you are, you know, like the things that align or don't align? Aren't you kind of like looking at your life and your year during that time?
Yeah. Okay, so Rosh Hashanah is more like looking at where you at, where what you've contributed this year, where you'd like to make changes, and really assess like where you've put your energy, right? And then Yom Kippur is a day of rest, really. You fast, you sacrifice, you atone, you make amends to people, things, that like behaviors, ways that you aren't proud of how you've acted. You know, you apologize to people, but it's also a time to accept apologies. And, you know, I don't know if it's all about forgiveness, really, but it's just becoming really aware of, you know, how you don't want to be, you know, and how you want to treat people in the right way. And then you're sealed in the book of life. And it's just really setting you up for how you want the next year to go. So I guess in a sense, like it's really like a 10-day thing. And then you have and next week or in the next 2 weeks, there's another holiday. But, you know, this 10 days is really assessing, where do I want to put my energy? How do I want my energy to feel? You know, like, and when we say like, how do you want your energy to feel? What kind of person do you want to be? You know, and it's kind of like manifesting your next year, right? And that's kind of a cool aspect of it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a day to rest because everybody's angry because they're hungry.
Yeah. Well, and I just think like, yeah, and I just think like this idea of like, I don't know, like energetic spending is, and this like idea of like, yeah, like where you want to put your energy. And, you know, I've just been having this like thought of like, you know, when we're trying to manifest specific things and when we're focused on specific things, like love or relationships or money or career, or you know, we put a lot of energy into those things, or manifesting a house, like, or you know, like I have mentioned to you, like when I was trying to get pregnant, like we put so much energy into bringing those things into our field, bringing those things into life. And there's certain things that take more energy than others. And I've just been thinking about that so much lately. And I think that the thing that's like the most top of mind is money, because I think that people find money the most difficult thing to manifest, because it's like, you know, because the more that we focus on trying to manifest money, the more that we are actually thinking about the lack of money. Right? Like, because we're like, we need abundance, we need money, we need money, we need money. And because it's so like much around us. And I've just been thinking about it so much lately with so many people losing their jobs, with like, I don't know, government shutdown and all crazy stuff going on. I've just been thinking about how much energy we put into trying to manifest money when money is energy at the end of the day.
Right. Well, it's so funny because you're spending, like if you don't have money and you're calling it in, you should be saving, and Iggy, what do you think about it? He's coming on to Sorry, he's usually at daycare, but he had a little switcheroo. Oh, he had his vaccine, so he can't go.
Baby.
Yes.
Hi, baby.
And so, this idea of like, if you're calling in money because you don't have enough of it, right? So the idea is to save and to kind of budget in a way. But what's so funny, and the fact that money is energy, but your energy, you're spending so much of it focusing on money. How do I get it? What are the ways that I have to do it? You spend money. You spend time and energy on thinking about how you're not good enough. What am I not doing right? And you're not saving energy so that you could actually be doing something to make money or call it in a certain way. But because your focus is just this like energy suck into something that is like almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, as if you like just constantly spend your time and energy focusing on the lack, that's what you're manifesting.
Right. And I would say too, like, yeah, the more that you focus on that, right, on manifesting it, the more that you are focusing on the lack and the fact that you don't have it. Because like the more that you focus on I need to call it in, is the more that you're focusing on the fact that I don't have it. And it's the same thing with relationships. It's the same thing with anything that you're like, okay, I need to call this in. Well, if you're saying I need to call it in, you're saying I don't have it, right? I need to save it. You need to save it because you're thinking I'm not going to get more. It's the same thing with people who are like, I need to eat the rest of my food because I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to eat this again. I'm not going to get more food, so I have to eat all of my food, right? Like there's like stuff like that. So it comes from a place of fear. It comes from a place of lack. And that is the switch of like being like, okay, if I am not focusing on that, if I'm not spending all of my energy in the lack or the getting it, where could I be spending that energy?
Right. And really, just like I wanted to point out, what you described is like a survival response, right? And what happens during survival response, all your energy goes to your eggs. I'm really on a roll today.
I feel like I need I want to like shock you or something. Speaking of survival, or like have like a button that's like every time.
I think I need electric shock therapy right now. I'm not even kidding. He has a collar that like it's not a shock collar, but it's like a tense machine. I'm like almost like gonna put it to my head or something.
Yeah.
But basically, all your energy goes to your arms and your legs because it's to fight or flight, right? So it's really like interesting that that's such a parallel process, of what happens in survival mode is like your energy goes to where it thinks it needs to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about regulating your nervous system of, okay, I'm not in fight or flight. Like, clearly I have enough money to be on here doing a podcast. I clearly have enough money to eat. I'm not starving and in a place where I can't shelter myself, feed myself, so we don't need to go into survival mode. But it's almost that kind of reaction when we just constantly hyper focus because it's like all your energy is going there. So if you can regulate your nervous system, like go outside, get in nature, do some deep breathing, walk, take a cold shower and shock yourself back into, maybe that's what I need to do is a cold shower. But,
yeah. And Yeah, and not to cut you off, but I think it's even deeper than that because I think like as we're kind of saying this, I'm thinking too, like, I mean, the reason why the survival like comes into like why we go into that is because like a lot of us come from families that have been like immigrants, right? Like a lot, most of us like we're not coming from families who were born in America, right? And that is what is ingrained is that survival, right? So like you go into that survival mode because that is like what has been taught, especially children of immigrants or grandchildren of immigrants. So like you go into that like mode of I have to survive. There isn't enough money, there's not going to be enough food, there's not going to be enough, and I do feel like that lives in us, and I think it lives in the body and it lives in the energy field. And I think that it's like that is like where the somatic healing and the nervous system healing and the energy healing really
Yeah.
comes into play.
Yeah, and what you're describing is survival mode. It was intergenerational trauma,
Mm-hmm.
survival passed down of,
Yeah.
and there's a reason that money is that trigger, right?
Yeah.
Because that is what they didn't have. That's why they were coming here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is for money, which really equaled safety,
Yeah.
unless you were escaping persecution. But I think that's more like refugee kind of thing. But most people were like, I can't survive. Like, I need money to survive. And then they come here and they're past it's literally embedded in your DNA. And
Mm-hmm.
that's like a lot of what I do with clients is like work on the ancestral. Like, how do we stop that cycle? And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it is regulating your nervous system and really understanding how to focus like what you're trying to get to on other things besides the thing that you like.
Right. Right. And I think, and so I think it's like it's working on that. It's becoming, it's feeling safe in the body and, doing things like tapping and like learning to become safe. And then I think it's this like this what's next idea of like, once you work through all of that, that's the healing, that's the deep like healing pieces of it, right? And like, then you kind of are in this place of like, okay, then where do I expend that energy? Like, and that's kind of like where I feel like, I'm at is like, I've done so much of the deep healing part, like pieces, right? And so it's like, I know all of where it comes from and I know all of like, and I've done all the somatic work and I know all of the like nervous system stuff. But then it's like, okay, so now I'm aware of all that. But now I'm like looking at it and I'm like, okay, so I know this is going on. I know where it comes from. I know what to do. But then but it's still existing, right? And so like you're still looking at it. And then you're like, okay, it's so fascinating to me to be in that position of like having that healing. And a lot of people listening, like, I think like they get to that place and then they're like, okay, we talked about this yesterday, like the exercise of rewriting your story, which is like the next step of like beyond the healing. Like, okay, so you did the healing. Great. You did all the like, you got down and dirty and you did all that stuff. Okay. Now you rewrite the story. That's kind
Right.
of exciting because that's like a power move is like, okay, so now what
Hmm.
do you do?
Right. Because like really you're blocking your vision of what that could look like by hyper focusing, right? So it's really turning your attention to what would it look like and what would it feel like to have your energy spread out and more balanced, because we don't want to then find the next problem, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to find the next thing to identify yourself as,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's like an identifier. It's like, I'm someone who can't make money. I'm someone who
Mm-hmm.
can't hold on to money. I'm someone who is always striving, and we don't want to swap identities for something like, okay, now I'm someone, like, find the problem and I'm going to label myself as that.
Yeah.
What if we just existed in this place where things were good and things were how we want to? Obviously, there are going to be things that come into our life that we can't predict, but what would it look like to have your energy really balanced in all the different areas? Like, what would you be doing? How would you focus that energy in a really balanced balanced way, and like write that story. Where are you? Who are you with? What are you doing? What do you look like? Like what's your environment? What kind of emotions are you embodying? And that literally is the manifestation process, because if you cannot see it, if you cannot try and feel it or know what you want to feel, it's never going to come.
Yeah. And I think that's the scariest piece for everybody. And like, listen, that's the journey. And I think that's the most challenging piece, is like that next phase. And
Absolutely.
feeling safe enough to be in that place of like, okay, not being worried of when the next shoe is going to drop, because like it actually feels the scariest. And we've done episodes like on that feeling of like, okay, like when is the next shoe going to drop, of like feeling into that, but building that balanced life. Like this is the longest that I have gone, and it's been years now that I have not taken another certification class, that I have just been in, this is what I do and this is who I am. And that's how I know that I'm in like the truest form of myself, because this is the longest I've gone without trying to like identify as anything else. Like, and I think since you've known me, right? Like this is like, have you ever seen me like not trying to get an education of something? Like,
or starting a new business.
Like I have literally been in, in this kind of like homeostasis, and freakouts and meltdowns happen, but it's like, I know what I'm doing. Like, I know this is what I'm doing. Right. But like, that's the scariest part for a lot of people. And I want to say, like, you wouldn't have an image, a desire, anything of the future if there wasn't a version of you or a timeline of you that didn't already have it. Nothing would come into your field if it wasn't something that was already yours. So nothing is too big. Nothing is too, magnificent. Like if you're like, oh, I have this vision of myself authoring a book, but no, I can't have it. No, you can. There is a version of you somewhere that has done that already. So you can do that, like you can. And so it's like, I think it is like sitting with that, like, what does that balanced version of myself look like? And the not throwing yourself into different identities is the toughest part, because I would argue that that's almost an addiction in some ways.
And avoidance.
And avoidance. Yeah.
It's avoidance of sitting in the discomfort, because I think a lot of people right now, like I think the eclipse like cleared out a lot of things. I think I said last time, like I know so many people who've lost their jobs, and they could take on the identity of victim, right? And that sticks with them. But I think it's honestly, we're just putting everybody on the right timeline. But that's also why things aren't coming to fruition in that period, because it wasn't right to land. You aren't well rested enough to receive. So that's so easy in those moments to take on identity labels, right? Of I'm the one who never gets what I want. I'm the one who's the victim. I'm just not good enough, and that does not serve your purpose. It's you avoiding doing the work of sitting in the discomfort of being like, okay, do I believe in myself enough? Do I believe in what I'm doing enough? Like, what is my why? And can I believe in myself enough to ride the wave of discomfort and learn to tolerate it and see what's on the other side? Because I think that is where the balance comes in, because you've learned to handle really tough things. And that also might be what everybody's feeling really tired and drained, is it takes a lot of energy to withstand really intense discomfort. Really don't pivot, because then you're just avoiding, like, everything you want to do is going to have a rough period of discomfort, because nothing is going to come exactly as you imagined.
And understanding too that like it's okay to feel safe in the contentment. Like I feel like everybody always expects like that, like you're trudging up the hill, and a lot of us get really addicted and really comfortable in the struggle. And myself included, like I love a good struggle. Like if there's like, like I love working for it. Like, and I've really had to like like you were saying, like you get like the identity of struggling. Like, And even like, with the money or with relationships, like the deprogramming of that is like, I am like somebody who struggles with money, or somebody who struggles with relationships, or somebody who has anxiety, or whatever it is, those labels, like, you have to decide that is not who I am. It's something that I've gone through, right? Once you are beyond that, and then you're sitting in the quiet, that's when like you have to be like, you feel uncomfortable, right? Because then you're like, okay, my life is quiet. This is the contentment, right? Of like, okay, that's what you're really working towards. But people don't realize it because they spend so much of their time. I mean, like, that's literally, I think, what the book The Alchemist is about, is like when they get to
Yeah.
the end, they're like, but is your whole life about the journey? Right. And then you're like at
Right.
this, like, you're at nirvana, and you're like, okay, I have to now create another problem because of what I'm
Right.
supposed to do. You create that drama, and it's like, you have to learn to feel comfortable in the like, wait a second, like, it's okay to just like be in the like day to day. Like, that's what happiness is. Like, it is not supposed to be up and down in a movie, and like, that's not what we're like striving for. That, I think, is really hard for people to understand because of like the way society like portrays everything.
Right. Well, they also portray that happiness is this like moment of ecstasy that's everlasting. Like happiness is not that you're going to feel good all the time,
Mhm.
but it also doesn't mean you're going to struggle all the time. And I
Right.
would argue that, like, yeah, if you have the capacity to withstand struggle, you also have the capacity to withstand the good, and
Mhm.
the good just looks like, I'm mostly day to day feel good. I'm content. I'm happy with where I'm at. I'm really happy with the emotions I want to embody. Like, I feel strong. I feel like I can handle things. I can appreciate the really good things in my life. I really like what I do. I'm secure enough that I'm not constantly struggling with money, maybe,
Mhm.
But when bad things come, I can feel it, but I can also handle it and remind myself of those things.
Yeah.
So that's being in the good space.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like, the piece about like the energetic like spending too, that I've like, been coming to realize is like that those struggles can get in the way of what you're meant to be doing, or can
Yes.
get in the way of like where you need to go. And that's kind of like what had come to me recently, like, recently, as in like the last couple of days, like this has been like a light bulb to me of like, I've spent so much of the past few years like building a job and the entrepreneurial like struggles. And we always make it seem like, oh my God, it has to be so hard, right? Like for an entrepreneur, like you
Hmm.
have to be like struggling, and realizing like that mentality is keeping me from really like doing the work that I need to do. Like I said it to Rob last night, like I was like, man, like there's some like really big things that like I am here, and like there's like some things that like I need to be doing right now to help the collective. Like there's like some things that just need to be ushered out. Like there's just some things that need to be done right now, like in because of the state of the universe. And like I have
Yeah.
to be doing these things. And like if I keep focusing on like my business and like just like I have to build, like there's no time for that right now. Like I cannot be pouring energy into the struggle. Like I need to move on from that. Like I just check the box. I have to move forward because there's other things that I need to be focusing my energy on, which is like all of these other things I need to be doing. And just realizing that has just been a huge shift for me, because I think it was purposeful to be struggling, but it's done now. Like I lived that, I learned those lessons, and now it's like I got
Hmm.
other things I have to do, like other
Yeah.
places the energy has got to go. Like done, check it, we're done, gotta go,
Yeah.
other things to do.
Zoom out.
Yeah.
You know, you have tunnel vision and you
Mm-hmm.
need to zoom out. And I'd argue that maybe you and I went through the struggle on the struggle bus because we also needed to relate to other people. you know? And I think a lot of the things that happen to us, particularly, I can't speak for other people, is because it allows us to feel the humanity and help where help is needed.
Yeah.
And I think we really like tune into the collective in that way, and it shows up in our lives, individual lives, because we need to understand, okay, this is what a lot of people feel. This is what a lot of people are going through. How do we help them? You
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
I think even just reframing it in that way helps to zoom out, because it's like, okay, this isn't just happening to me. Like, I don't have to
Yeah.
be that victim right now. I can understand it sucks. It doesn't feel good. But I also understand other people are going through it. How can we all pull ourselves out of it together?
Yeah.
So it's not so lonely. You know,
Yeah.
so I think even just the small reframes of like, why is this happening for me? You know,
Yeah.
what can I learn from this, and how can it zoom out and help to balance other things?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And also just like, yeah, like being like, okay, like living through that to relate to others, and then also knowing when it's time for another journey. Like I think about it with my
Right.
chronic illness journey. It's like the
Oh, yeah.
end of that was the beginning of another big journey for me. And it's the same thing like with like, I talk about it a lot, like, and I kind of laugh about it now, and I bring this up and I brought it up to you and I bring it up to Rob. Like when you and I met, I was already with Rob, but there was like a 8 to 10 year span where I was like looking for a husband. So like I
Yeah.
was like single and ready to mingle. Like that was my focus. And like I was like, that was the thing. Like if I ever went to a psychic, and if I ever like, that is what I focused on. And like the end of that journey when I met Rob and then found contentment, right? Like the end of the toxic relationships and the end of all of that was the beginning of my chronic illness journey, which started another journey for me where I was then, it was time to focus on something else. Like that had to be closed, but it made me have stories and relatability for other things. The end of my chronic illness journey has been the opening of like this, like, it's been conflated with other things, but like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I just think it's really interesting that like, sometimes it's like you close those chapters, because it's time for other things to be opened. And like, just knowing like, okay, like, I think it's been really important to your point for the relatability to be able to know like, a lot of people are going through money struggles right now. A lot of people are going through career struggles. A lot of people are losing their corporate jobs or their jobs for other people. A lot of people are feeling like they are called for something more, called for something deeper. A lot of people, I would argue, are being forced out or losing their jobs because they're being put on the path to find that thing, or that it's time for them to focus on that thing. And maybe they wouldn't have found that if they had stayed where they were. And I think it's purposeful that you and I have gone on those journeys earlier, or we're working in our other things, and then had kind of been on this journey now of like trying to find our way and like finding it. And it's like, okay, so that we can lead others in that way, so that we can help all of you that are listening who are maybe where we were 2 years ago, or maybe where we were 5 years ago, and help you along the way. But if we don't close that chapter of the 2 years or of the 5 years, I can't live in this moment forever. Like I have to move forward. And that's just kind of like what's come to me is like, it's time. And my mom looked at me a couple of days ago and she was just like, you've really changed a lot. Like you're very different. Like your style has changed. Your whole like demeanor has changed. And I was like, you're right. And it's not in a like teenage way where I'm like, yeah, mom, I'm changed. Yeah. Like my hair is purple. Yeah, you're right. I'm different now. Like you don't know me.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, you're right. Like I respect that. Thank you. Like for acknowledging it. And I just feel like this is a turning point for a lot of people. I think it's a closing of a chapter for you and I in different things as well. And I think it's just like, it's the chill of the wind is coming in, and it's coming. There's a corner that's being turned.
It is. And we're in a different path. And I think it's purposeful. And it's not like, it's not meant to just be like free flowing and easy. Like, you really do learn things from the hard things, and it's not what people want to hear. But I will say, I look back on every difficult thing I've had to go through, and I'm actually grateful for it. Like, I don't wish it happened necessarily, but I'm so grateful for what came out of it, because I am different. And my mom has said the same thing to me. My friends have said the same thing to me. They're like, you are just so different than you were. And I think it's also, we are people who really, really work on ourselves, and we don't avoid. We lean into that discomfort. Lean into, we are people who don't take no for an answer, you know? And, my mom said to me, she's like, I see other people whose kids are chronically ill, and they are just a victim. They are constantly in that identifier. And I absolutely was for a while. I'm not going to lie and be like, it was always like this. No, I felt so sorry for myself for so long. Like, with everything that happened, like, mine was a little different. Like, I was denying myself being gay for so long. So I was in that where I needed a boyfriend, I needed to get a husband, and I was looking in the wrong places because I just didn't want to accept that part of myself, But once I did, chronic illness came in, and figuring out what I wanted to do as a career. And it is really reflective of developmental stages, whether you believe in like psychoanalytics or not. But these are like, you socialize, having someone and pairing off as a partner is a developmental stage. Focusing on your purpose and family and career is the next phase. But I'd also argue our chronic illness came because we finally stopped like focusing all that energy, and whatever we went through to get there, I think arose in a chronic illness way.
Yeah.
And I am seeing so many people in this spiritual field are chronically ill, and I don't think that's a coincidence. Like, there is something about it that allows you to surrender and believe in something bigger, and watch sometimes miracles happen, or watch yourself change in that process to fight for yourself, and that brings a lot of, energy in a different way that helps you balance out. It like requires a lot of reflection. It requires things that you didn't think were capable of yourself before, and I think that's why we're also here, So I really think that there's something about ending those chapters, but there's always a thread through it, It's not like it stops and there's no tether to that other part of you. It's just, you have that thread, so you are reminded of what you went through. And that's why the intergenerational trauma is there, to remember. And it's like, it's your job maybe to stop the cycle, but it's there to remind you of, okay, I got through this. This isn't any different. This struggle with money, this struggle with love, this struggle with career is because it has to show me who my highest self is. It's like the chance to peer into a version of yourself that you thought was impossible.
Yeah. And I would say too, like, I mean, not everything is forever. And, I have this thing, I tell people this all the time, because like I've had clients who would say to me, oh, did you see my highest self in that session? And what did they look like? And I would say, like, a different version of your higher self appears as you continue to level up. You level up, your higher self levels up. Like, there is a different version of you. There's a different version of your higher self as you continue to move forward and move forward and move forward. And that's just the way that it is. And so you are continuing to build. And the more that you take off these different masks, these different identities, the more that you reveal who you truly are as you continue to kind of like step, forward on this journey. And so I think it's really, really cool and really, really beautiful. And I think in those times where you decide, like, okay, like this is done. Like, I can't do this anymore. And I think a lot of people are kind of like at that rope. So yeah. And I just want to say, like, I do feel for everyone that's listening, like I feel this tide of change coming.
Yeah. I'm
And
seeing little bits of it, you know?
yeah,
And just to your point about highest self, it's really interesting. Mine used to be a totally different person. It was
exactly.
like when I first started as like a blonde, blue-eyed person, like nothing like me. And I don't know why they came in. It was like Robin. Is her name Robin Wright? Yes. Who was
What?
in print? You know Robin Wright, like
Yes.
from
That was your
but
higher self?
no, like from Princess Bride.
Okay, fair.
I think I probably
Okay.
just had a crush on her when I was younger. But it wasn't her, but it was like
Yeah.
someone like her.
Okay.
And then as I got through like different phases, it became me, just different versions of myself, you know? So it can change what it looks like, who it is, like what version of yourself, like as you change, that's going to change because I think you're becoming more and more of that version, you know?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and again, the tides are changing. I am seeing it everywhere. And yeah, the doubt has been shaking up, you know, this feeling of struggle has definitely been there, but really ride the wave. Like things are going to be okay. You're going to make it to shore. Things are coming in, but rest. You know, stop spending your energy focusing because I think I saw this meme that was really interesting and it totally ties into this. It's like worrying is like praying for the worst thing to happen to you. It was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, that is such a great analogy. So stop hyper focusing because that's what you're doing. You're like manifesting the worst possible outcome. You're manifesting to stay exactly where you are, right?
Mhm.
And you don't like that place. So let's like rewrite the story. What does it look like? What will it feel like? Where are you? Who are you with? And really try and focus your energy on that and all the different areas of your life and what that will feel like.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that will do a lot for you.
Percent. And as always, if you need support, you have us, you know where to find us. And, we're here for you. We're along for the journey. We, we will see you guys on the next one.
Yes. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.